My name is Captain James Merrick, and I have spent my life at sea, commanding ships through both calm and treacherous waters. The ocean has always been my home, a place of beauty and danger that I have come to respect and understand. But nothing could have prepared me for the encounter I had in the summer of 2021. An encounter that would haunt my dreams and alter the course of my life forever. This is the story of the Kraken's Wrath. I was the captain of the Sea Voyager, sturdy vessel used primarily for deep-sea fishing. My crew was a tight-knit group of seasoned sailors who trusted me implicitly. We had faced storms, mechanical failures, and near shipwrecks together, always emerging stronger and more united. But this time, our journey would test us in ways we could never have imagined. We set sail from the port of Reykjavik, Iceland, on a bright and clear morning, our destination the remote waters off the coast of Greenland. The fishing season had been poor, and we hoped that venturing further north would yield better catches. The sea was calm, and the wind filled our sails as we made our way into the vast, open ocean. The first few days were uneventful. We caught some fish, shared stories, and enjoyed the serenity of the sea. But as we ventured further into the Arctic waters, the weather began to change. The skies darkened, and a chill settled over the ship. A sense of unease crept over us, an unspoken fear that something was watching us from the depths. One evening, as we prepared to lower our nets, the sea suddenly erupted around us. Massive tentacles, each as thick as a tree trunk, rose from the water and wrapped around the ship. The crew screamed in terror as the Kraken, a creature of legend and nightmares, emerged from the ocean. The Kraken's eyes glowed with a malevolent intelligence, and its beak-like mouth opened to emit a deafening roar. The ship rocked violently as the creature tightened its grip, threatening to crush us. I shouted orders, but the crew was paralyzed with fear. With the surge of adrenaline, I grabbed a harpoon and aimed for one of the tentacles. The harpoon struck true, causing the Kraken to release its grip momentarily. I ordered the crew to cut the lines and set the ship free, but the creature was relentless. It attacked again, pulling the ship down into the water. The Sea Voyager was being dragged into the abyss, and I knew we had to act quickly. I took the helm and steered the ship towards the shallower waters, hoping to escape the Kraken's reach. The crew fought valiantly, cutting tentacles and firing harpoons, but the creature's strength was overwhelming. As the ship lurched and creaked under the strain, I felt a surge of determination. I would not let my crew perish at the hands of this monster. I ordered the men to rig the explosive charges we kept for emergencies, hoping to create a distraction. The crew worked frantically, setting the charges along the ship's hull. With a final prayer, I detonated the charges. The explosion rocked the ship, and the Kraken recoiled in pain. The water around us churned with blood and debris as the creature released its grip and disappeared into the depths. We were battered and bruised, but we were alive. The Sea Voyager limped back to Reykjavik, the crew shaken but grateful to have survived. We shared our story with the authorities, who were skeptical but intrigued. The legend of the Kraken had always been a tale told by sailors, but now we had proof that the monster was real. The encounter changed us all. The crew disbanded, unable to face the sea again. I too left the life of a sailor behind, unable to shake the memory of the Kraken's wrath. The ocean, once my home, had become a place of nightmares. I took up work as a maritime consultant, sharing my knowledge and experience with those who still brave the waters. But the memory of the Kraken haunted me, a constant reminder of the power and mystery of the sea. Years later, I received a call from a group of researchers who had heard my story. They were planning an expedition to the Arctic waters, hoping to study the Kraken and understand its origins. They asked for my help, and despite my fear, I agreed. The expedition was a chance to confront my demons and seek closure. We set sail on a state-of-the-art research vessel, equipped with the latest technology. The crew was a mix of scientists and sailors, all eager to uncover the truth about the Kraken. As we reached the remote waters, the same sense of unease settled over us. The ocean was calm, but the air was thick with anticipation. We deployed underwater drones and sensors, scanning the depths for any sign of the creature. Days passed with no sightings, and the crew grew restless. But one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the kraken emerged once more. The massive tentacles rose from the water and the creature's eyes locked onto the ship. This time, we were prepared. The researchers activated the sonic deterrents, creating a barrier of sound waves that disoriented the kraken. The creature thrashed and roared, but it could not breach the barrier. We observed and documented the kraken's behavior, gaining valuable insights into its nature. As the creature retreated, I felt a sense of closure. The kraken was not just a monster. It was a part of the ocean's ecosystem, a creature that commanded respect and fear. The expedition was a success, and we returned with a wealth of knowledge. The kraken remains a legend, but it is also a reminder of the mysteries that lie beneath the surface. My encounter with the kraken changed my life, but it also taught me the importance of facing the unknown with courage and curiosity. And as I look out at the ocean, I am reminded of the kraken's wrath and the enduring power of the sea. The legend lives on, a testament to the wonders and dangers that still await us in the depths. My name is Ethan Crow, and I am a member of the Navajo Nation. Growing up, I was always fascinated by the stories and legends passed down through generations. The elders spoke of ancient spirits, sacred rituals, and dark curses that could bring misfortune to anyone who dared to trespass into forbidden territories. Among these tales, the one that stood out the most was that of the Skinwalker, a malevolent witch capable of transforming into any animal it desired. The Skinwalker was a creature of pure evil, an abomination that had once been a respected medicine man before turning to the dark arts. The legend warned that those who encountered a Skinwalker would face dire consequences, as these beings were known to use their powers for malevolent purposes. As a child, I dismissed these stories as mere folklore, but as I grew older, I began to realize that there was more to these tales than met the eye. It was the summer of 2020 when I experienced the terror of the Skinwalker firsthand. I was living in a small village near the edge of the Navajo reservation, working as a ranger tasked with protecting the land and its inhabitants. The job was challenging but rewarding, and I took great pride in preserving the natural beauty of our ancestral home. One evening, I received a call from a local rancher named Thomas Werewolf. He sounded panicked and distraught, claiming that something was killing his livestock. He had lost several sheep and goats over the past week, their bodies mutilated and left to rot. He feared that a wild animal was responsible, and he needed my help to track it down. I drove out to Thomas's ranch, a remote property nestled deep within the reservation. As I arrived, I could see the fear in his eyes. He led me to the fields where the attacks had occurred, and the sight that greeted me was horrifying. The ground was stained with blood, and the air was thick with the stench of decay. The animals' bodies were mangled beyond recognition, their throats torn out and their innards strewn across the ground. Thomas explained that he had heard strange noises at night, owls and growls that didn't belong to any known animal. He also mentioned seeing shadows moving in the distance, but whenever he tried to investigate, he found nothing. I promised him that I would do everything in my power to find the culprit and put an end to the terror. That night, I set up a series of motion-activated cameras around the ranch, hoping to capture any evidence of the predator. I also stayed on the property, keeping watch with the rifle by my side. The hours passed slowly, and the darkness seemed to press in from all sides. The only sounds were the rustling of leaves and the distant calls of nocturnal creatures. Around midnight, I heard a faint noise coming from the far side of the field. I grabbed my flashlight and cautiously made my way towards the source of the sound. As I approached, I saw movement in the shadow, something large and fast, darting between the trees. I raised my rifle, my heart pounding in my chest. Suddenly, the creature stepped into the beam of my flashlight, and I felt a wave of dread wash over me. It was unlike anything I had ever seen. The creature was tall and gaunt, its body covered in matted fur. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and its mouth was filled with sharp, jagged teeth. It stood on two legs, but its posture was hunched and twisted, as if it were barely able to support its own weight. The Skinwalker. I raised my rifle and fired, but the creature moved with incredible speed, disappearing into the darkness before I could take aim. I chased after it, determined to put an end to the threat, but the forest seemed to swallow the light of my flashlight, leaving me disoriented and lost. I could hear the creature's footsteps all around me, but I could not see it. After what felt like an eternity, I found my way back to the ranch, exhausted and shaken. Thomas was waiting for me, his face pale with fear. I told him what I had seen, and his expression grew even more grim. He explained that the Skinwalker was not just a wild animalet, was a powerful witch that had the ability to transform into any creature it desired. Killing it would not be easy, and we would need the help of the elders to lift the curse. The next day, we traveled to the home of Chief Running Bear, a respected elder and medicine man. We explained our situation, and he agreed to help us. He performed a series of rituals, chanting ancient prayers and burning sacred herbs to cleanse the land of the Skinwalker's presence. He also gave us protective charms to wear, instructing us to never take them off. That night, we returned to the ranch, armed with our charms and a renewed sense of purpose. We took turns keeping watch, our eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. As the hours passed, the tension grew, but the forest remained silent. Just before dawn, we heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching the ranch. The Skinwalker emerged from the shadows, its eyes glowing with malevolence. It snarled, baring its teeth, and lunged towards us. But this time, we were ready. Thomas and I stood our ground, our protective charms glowing with a faint, blue light. The Skinwalker recoiled, hissing in pain as it tried to breach the barrier. Chief Running Bear began chanting, his voice growing louder and more powerful with each word. The Skinwalker thrashed and howled, but it could not withstand the combined strength of our defenses. With a final, deafening scream, the Skinwalker dissolved into a cloud of black smoke, leaving nothing but silence in its wake. The curse had been lifted, and the land was once again free from the creature's malevolent influence. In the days that followed, the attack ceased, and life returned to normal. The villagers were grateful, and Thomas's ranch was no longer plagued by the horrors of the Skinwalker. I continued my work as a ranger, but the experience left a lasting impression on me. The legend of the Skinwalker was more than just a story, it was a reminder of the dark forces that still lurked in the shadows of our world. As I look back on that summer, I am grateful for the strength and courage of my friends and the wisdom of the elders. The encounter with the Skinwalker taught me to respect the old ways, and to never underestimate the power of the unknown. The legends of my people are not just tales to be told, they are a testament to the mysteries and wonders that still exist in the world. And as long as there are those who believe, the stories of the Skinwalker will continue to be passed down through generations, a reminder of the thin line between myth and reality. My name is Dr. Sarah Whitaker, and I am an anthropologist specializing in the study of human origins and ancient cultures. Over the years, my work has taken me to some of the most remote and mysterious places on Earth, but none were as enigmatic as the Himalayas. In the winter of 2021, I embarked on an expedition to the highest mountain range in the world, searching for evidence of the elusive creature known as the Yeti, also called the abominable snowman. The Yeti has long been a subject of fascination and fear. Descriptions of the creature vary, but most accounts depict it as a large, ape-like being, covered in white fur, roaming the icy peaks and deep valleys of the Himalayas. Skeptics dismiss the Yeti as a myth, a product of folklore and imagination. But countless sightings and unexplained tracks suggest there may be more to the legend than mere superstition. Our expedition was sponsored by the International Anthropological Society, and our team consisted of seasoned mountaineers, scientists, and local guides. We set out from the city of Kathmandu, Nepal, heading towards the remote region of the Khumbu Valley, near Mount Everest. The journey was arduous, fraught with treacherous terrain and unpredictable weather, but our resolve was unwavering. As we ascended higher into the mountains, the landscape transformed into a frozen wilderness, a stark contrast to the bustling streets of Kathmandu. The air grew thinner, and the temperatures plummeted, but the breathtaking beauty of the Himalayas was a constant source of inspiration. We camped in small villages along the way, relying on the hospitality of the Sherpa people, who shared their knowledge and stories of the Yeti. One evening, while we were staying in the village of Namche Bazaar, an elderly Sherpa named Pemba approached me with a story. He claimed to have encountered the Yeti as a young man, describing it as a towering figure with glowing eyes and an eerie howl that echoed through the mountains. Pemba's account was detailed and compelling, filled with emotion and reverence. He warned us to be cautious and respectful, as the Yeti was considered a guardian of the mountains, a spirit of the wild. The next day, we continued our ascent, reaching the base camp of Mount Everest. The sheer size of the mountain was overwhelming, a testament to the power and majesty of nature. We spent several days acclimatizing to the altitude, preparing for the final leg of our journey to the remote valleys where Yeti sightings were most frequent. One night, as we huddled around a campfire, our lead guide, Tenzing, pointed out strange tracks in the snow. The prints were enormous, much larger than those of any known animal in the region. The tracks led into a dense forest, disappearing into the shadows. Tenzing believed they belonged to the Yeti and urged us to follow them at first light. The next morning, we set out at dawn, following the tracks through the forest. The journey was grueling, the snow deep and the air frigid, but the prospect of discovering evidence of the Yeti kept us moving. The tracks led us to a secluded valley, surrounded by towering peaks and blanketed in snow. As we approached, we heard a low, rumbling growl that sent shivers down our spines. We stopped in our tracks, hearts pounding, as the sound grew louder. Suddenly, a massive figure emerged from the trees, covered in thick, white fur. It was the Yeti, standing over 8 feet tall, with powerful limbs and piercing eyes that glowed with an otherworldly light. The creature stared at us, its expression unreadable, as if it were assessing whether we were friend or foe. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The Yeti and our team were locked in a silent standoff, the air heavy with tension. Then, with a swift and graceful movement, the Yeti turned and disappeared into the forest, leaving us in stunned silence. We quickly gathered our senses and followed the Yeti, keeping a respectful distance. The creature led us deeper into the valley, to a hidden cave nestled among the rocks. The entrance was covered with ancient symbols and carvings, suggesting that the cave had long been considered a sacred place. Inside the cave, we found evidence of the Yeti's presence bones, animal hides, and primitive tools. It was a living space, carefully maintained and organized. The discovery was monumental, providing the first tangible proof of the Yeti's existence and its intelligence. We spent several days documenting our findings, taking photographs and samples for further analysis. The Yeti remained elusive, but we could sense its presence, watching us from the shadows. We were intruders in its domain, and we made sure to treat the area with the utmost respect. As we prepared to leave the valley, Tenzing shared a final piece of wisdom. He explained that the Yeti was more than just a creature, it was a symbol of the unknown. A reminder that the world still holds many mysteries waiting to be uncovered. The Yeti represented the wild, untamed spirit of the mountains, a guardian of nature that commanded both fear and reverence. The journey back to Kathmandu was filled with reflection and awe. We had set out to find the Yeti, and we had succeeded beyond our wildest dreams. The discovery would change the course of anthropological research. challenging our understanding of human evolution and the natural world. The legend of the Yeti is no longer just a story, it is a testament to the enduring mysteries of our planet and the awe-inspiring power of nature. As an anthropologist, I am humbled by the experience and grateful for the opportunity to witness such a profound part of our world's history. The Yeti of the Himalayas remains a symbol of the unknown, a guardian of the mountains, and a reminder that there is always more to discover in the vast and wondrous world we call home. My name is Maria Rivera, and I grew up in a small village in the mountains of Puerto Rico. It was a peaceful place, surrounded by lush forests and clear streams. The people in our village lived simple lives, tending to their farms and animals. However, there was always an undercurrent of fear that rippled through our community, a fear rooted in the legend of the chupacabra. The chupacabra, or goatsucker, was a creature that haunted our nightmares. It was said to be a grotesque beast, part reptile and part mammal, with sharp fangs and glowing red eyes. The chupacabra was known for preying on livestock, draining their blood, and leaving their lifeless bodies behind. The stories of the chupacabra have been passed down through generations, and while some dismissed it as mere folklore, others believed in its existence wholeheartedly. In the summer of 2020, strange occurrences began to plague our village. Livestock were found dead, their bodies mutilated and drained of blood. The villagers were terrified, convinced that the chupacabra had returned. My family owned a small farm on the outskirts of the village, and we, too, began to experience the horrors that had befallen our neighbors. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, my father, Carlos, and I went out to check on our animals. The air was thick with tension, and an eerie silence had settled over the farm. As we approached the barn, we were met with a gruesome sight. Several of our goats lay dead, their bodies torn apart, and their blood pooled on the ground. My father cursed under his breath, and I felt a chill run down my spine. "We need to do something, Maria," my father said, his voice trembling with anger and fear. "We can't let this monster continue to terrorize our village." Determined to protect our farm and our community, my father and I decided to keep watch that night. Armed with a rifle and a flashlight, we took turns patrolling the perimeter of our property. The hours passed slowly, and the darkness seemed to press in from all sides. The only sounds were the rustling of leaves and the distant calls of nocturnal creatures. It was just after midnight when I heard a strange noise coming from the edge of the forest. I tightened my grip on the flashlight and cautiously made my way towards the sound. As I approached, I saw movement in the shadow, something large and fast, darting between the trees. My heart pounded in my chest as I raised the flashlight, illuminating the creature. What I saw defied explanation. The chupacabra stood before me, its eyes glowing red and its mouth filled with sharp, jagged teeth. Its body was covered in scaly, reptilian skin, and it moved with an unnatural, predatory grace. For a moment, I was frozen with fear, unable to look away from the creature's malevolent gaze. The chupacabra let out a low, guttural growl, and I knew I had to act quickly. I raised the rifle and fired, but the creature moved with incredible speed, disappearing into the darkness before I could take aim. I chased after it, determined to protect my family and our farm. But the forest seemed to swallow the light of my flashlight, leaving me disoriented and lost. After what felt like an eternity, I found my way back to the farm, exhausted and shaken. My father was waiting for me, his face pale with fear. I told him what I had seen, and his expression grew even more grim. He believed that the chupacabra was not just an animal, it was a supernatural being, a manifestation of dark forces that had been unleashed upon our village. The next day, we sought the help of Don Alejandro, a respected elder and shaman. We explained our situation, and he agreed to perform a cleansing ritual to banish the chupacabra and protect our land. That evening, Don Alejandro arrived at our farm, carrying an assortment of herbs, candles, and sacred objects. The ritual began with a prayer, invoking the spirits of our ancestors to aid us in our struggle. Don Alejandro burned the herbs, the fragrant smoke filling the air, and chanted in a language that seemed to resonate with the very soul of the earth. He drew symbols in the dirt, creating a protective circle around our property. As the ritual continued, the atmosphere grew charged with energy. The air seemed to hum with a strange, otherworldly power. Suddenly, a chill swept through the farm, and we heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching. The chupacabra had returned, drawn by the ritual. The creature emerged from the shadows, its eyes blazing with anger. It snarled and lunged towards us, but it was stopped by the invisible barrier created by Don Alejandro's magic. The chupacabra howled in frustration, clawing at the air as if trying to break through. Don Alejandro's chanting grew louder and more intense, his voice echoing through the night. The creature writhed and twisted, its form flickering like a shadow in the wind. With a final, powerful incantation, Don Alejandro thrust his staff towards the chupacabra, and the creature let out a deafening scream. The chupacabra's body convulsed, and then, with a blinding flash of light, it disintegrated into a cloud of black smoke. The air was filled with the acrid smell of burning sulfur, and then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the chupacabra was gone. The ritual was over, and the farm was enveloped in a profound silence. Don Alejandro lowered his staff, his face etched with exhaustion and relief. The chupacabra had been banished, and our village was safe once more. In the days that followed, the attack ceased, and life slowly returned to normal. The villagers were grateful, and my family could finally rest easy, knowing that the chupacabra's curse had been lifted. The legend of the chupacabra remains a part of our cultural heritage, a reminder of the dark forces that lurk in the shadows and the power of faith and tradition to overcome them. As I look back on that summer, I am filled with a sense of awe and gratitude. The encounter with the chupacabra taught me to respect the old ways, and to never underestimate the power of the unknown. The legends of my people are not just stories, they are a testament to the mysteries and wonders that still exist in the world. And as long as there are those who believe, the stories of the chupacabra will continue to be passed down through generations, a reminder of the thin line between myth and reality.